Welcome to the DSEF. The Direct Selling Executives Forum was created to be a place where real direct selling executives and vendors in the space can come out and share solutions to challenges that face us all in the marketplace. Our guest today is going to be unpacking a topic and sharing their raw thoughts for you to learn from. All right, let's go meet our guest. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our next episode of the Direct Selling Executives Forum's Women in Leadership series. I'm very excited that Janet's out here to share today. Omar will be our host. But before we kick off our call, I want to give you a little bit of a background on today's session. When we were packing this topic of frameworks for onboarding, and we're talking about onboarding representatives, distributors, consultants, promoters, indirect sales, Janet Metzger is one of the people that came right to the top of my mind. I'm going to read you a bit of her bio as we welcome her out here today, and we're going to have a ton of fun in today's session. So having been in direct selling and network marketing for 25 years, Janet has a passion and a belief that this is the best profession in the world. She was a corporate division sales manager with Avon, supporting field managers of over 20,000 representatives in the Midwest. Her region contributed close to $100 million of annual sales. Wow. Right. And you got to understand, Janet's like right up the road from me. So here in Chicagoland, Janet's a Wisconsin gal, just right across the border. Okay, she's a certified coach, a certified consultant for a Procter Gallagher company. Mindset is a huge part of her success. She's a personal development junkie, just like most of us who have had a chance to win, right? In her story, she talked about dipping her toe in the world of CBD 2 years ago, working as a corporate consultant, and by building her own CBD business and team, has fallen in love with CBD as a passion. Our mission is to educate others about the benefits of CBD today. Her husband, Jerry, and her have been married 41 years, right? They live in Madison, Wisconsin. Their daughter, Patsy, who is a 4-year-old Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. So there we go, dog mom, certified therapy dog, and is good at getting and giving attention. When she's not working, she loves to travel, cook, entertain, and I'm a college basketball fan. So gang, it's such a treat to have you out here today. Janet, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for asking, Ben. It's good to reconnect.
Well, we're going to have a ton of fun because this is a topic that there's a lot of different opinions, attitudes, frameworks that people subscribe to, and I'm excited to hear you unpack yours. So with that, Omar, we're going to pass the show to you. Let's go through frameworks for onboarding.
Thank you, Ben. Welcome, everyone. And thank you so much, Janet, for joining us today on our DSEF podcast. Topic for today is the frameworks on onboarding. Let's unpack your story before we start. How did you first come into the direct selling space, and what's your why today?
Okay. Oh my gosh. It's a long time. It's been a really long time. So this tells you how long ago it was. I actually applied from the newspaper for a job. So long time ago. And I went to this interview really not having any idea. I read the ad and went, wow, this sounds kind of cool. So I went to this interview and it was a group interview, and I immediately fell in love with the industry, with the people. And I was in a room with about 20 people, and it was just a phenomenal experience. So that's how it started. I got hired as a corporate employee, knowing zero to nothing about direct selling. But I'd been in sales my entire career, so the skills were transferable. So that's how it started. And what is my why today? It's changed, but not that much. I actually received a call from this company I'm working alongside about 8 months ago. And I said, I'm happily retired and I'm good at retirement. I find enough to do, but I still wanted to be engaged. And my why it's a big why. I want to be able to give back to this industry that's done so much for me, and to really bring back the credibility, because there's some garbage out there with people. So it's a great industry and I want people to know. And personally, what I'll do is I just absolutely love to travel, and I want to have the flexibility and, of course, the money to be able to travel in the style that I want. So that's my why, but it's still about helping other people. It's a very tightly knit community and I love it.
That is the freedom of direct sales, is to be able to do what you want with who you want when you want, is a promise of our space. And
exactly. You still have to work, but it's nice to be able to work when you want to work and with whom you want to work.
Yes.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Well, Dave Fleming, head of sales at Neora, and a previous guest on our show, shared a statistic, very interesting, that reps are 23 times more likely to be active with a company for 12 months after enrolling if they make their first check in their first 7 days. With that data in mind, what frameworks would you suggest companies apply to their onboarding experience?
Oh my gosh, we're speaking the same language, because I have always said the only reason why people quit direct selling is because they're not making any money. They can
True.
put up with a lot of baloney, things that go wrong, if you're earning a paycheck right away. So for me, that is so spot on. So what I really like to focus on when somebody is first starting is helping them to earn money in their first week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. So I guess I just really look at it is less is more. I think if you focus on do these three things, do the power of three or whatever it is, your three things, and just do this, you're going to be okay. But what tends to happen, I see it all the time, is, well, you got to go to this website, and you got to do this, and you got to get your bank account. I'm like, how does that make that person any money? So I focus on the fundamentals. And quite honestly, I think if you just did the fundamentals day in and day out and not worry about any of the other fluff, you're still going to win. So less is more. I firmly believe that.
You say the fundamentals and less is more. So is there a framework of saying, when I've seen onboarding go well, this is a framework we've followed? So there's many people from different referral marketing companies
Right.
on the line. And what would you say is your framework for, hey, these are because fundamentals mean something different to different people. So what
Right.
does that mean
Right.
to you, Janet?
For me, the fundamentals are helping them to know exactly what to do. So in other words, say this, post this, whatever it is, to 3 people per day. A lot of controversy of make your list of 100 people or whatever. You know what? When you're brand new to the business, you have to feel comfortable with the people that you're talking to. So I try to make it a little bit easier. So who are your first 10 people that you could call that if you needed help moving, who would it be? Let's talk to those people with, say this, say this. And that's all I want them to do, is just say this. So for me, that's number one. Number two, my part of my framework is staying in touch with that person, because too often what happens is people, the old spaghetti method, throw them against the wall, we'll see who sticks. No, what I want to do is you get started, here's your homework. Within 24 to 48 hours, I'm talking to them again. My formula typically in the first week is 3 to 4 times I'm touching them. Now, it might not be a live conversation, because oftentimes what will happen is there's this little tiny thing that stops them. They have this question, they don't know what to do, so they do nothing. So my goal is, okay, how you doing? Tell me what's going well. I use the coaching method, the sandwich method. Tell me what's going well. Okay, great. That is awesome. Let's find something to celebrate. So staying in contact with them is big. And my goal is to, first week, it's 3 to 4 times. Second week, it's 2 to 3 times. So I'm staying in touch with them, keeping them engaged. That's, for me, those are the biggest things. The other part of the onboarding that I avoid that many people do is, well, you got to get on this training call and that training call. Most people have 15 to 20 minutes a day, if that. So I don't want them spending that 20 minutes on a corporate call. I want you talking to people.
This is a really interesting framework. So you started with is modeling the appropriate content to share. Okay, guys, these are your 10 people that would take your call.
Yeah.
Here's what to say. Here's the question to ask. Here's the thing to do. You're not expecting them to just come up with the content. This is so important to hear, everybody, because in onboarding, sometimes we think, oh, they're excited. They'll know what to do. Here's your link. Just get at them, boys and girls. No, what Janet's saying is so critical. Give them the words to say. Give them the questions to ask. I've seen people do this in PDF documents. I've seen them do it in mobile apps that are, that you could sync your contacts and suggest what to say.
Yeah.
Do the work of providing the content to share. The second thing Janet said, if you were listening, is create a cadence for follow-up.
Yeah.
Okay, and be intentional about it. So you may have an intentional cadence. I've actually seen this in software that we built over the years. I've actually seen clients where they'll send like a notification the day someone enrolls on your team to be an ambassador or consultant.
Mhm.
They'll send another one a week later to the sponsor
Yeah.
that says, hey, go check in with Tabitha. It's been 1 week. Or another one 3 weeks later. And they not only are sending, sometimes we think of having a welcome series of email autoresponders only to the new promoter, but trigger a welcome series every time there's a new one to the sponsor too, right? Hey,
Yeah.
it's day 7 of her journey. Hey, it's day 30 of her journey. Follow up. And here's what, at this point in the process, invite her to think about this. And by having your system set up so that it feels like it's coaching them and modeling appropriate content, very, very cool. And the third note Janet just said was around our expectations of their time. This is
Yeah.
not a full-time gig for the majority
Yes.
of your members. Okay. And if you
True.
think, oh, yeah, they got 3 hours a week to jump on calls, they don't amongst what you have. So you have to figure out how to give them the training, how to give them the education at their own pace. Once again, a lot of people do this in these short little 5-minute videos inside of apps, inside of your back office, little snippets of content that are going out all the time because you're wanting to maximize the 20 minutes or half an hour a day they are giving you into communicating to the relationships in their life, in being in relationship with the people that are going to be buying from you. So powerful takeaways from what Jan's just sharing there. And if you're missing one of those elements inside of your
Yeah.
framework right now in onboarding, you're leaving you have a hole in the bucket. You're leaving attrition here on the table. So it's important thought. Thank you so much for sharing that.
It's so important. The IPAs, the income producing activities, and it not telling all this other stuff that, quite frankly, they're not ready for.
Mm-hmm.
I see that a lot with very successful distributors. They think they're doing them a favor by telling them everything that they've learned in 20 years. They're in kindergarten. They're not ready for this college level stuff. So keep it simple, and less is more. I firmly believe that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Janet. It was great insight on the fundamentals. So, with keeping those fundamentals in mind, what has surprised you the most as you've implemented your frameworks?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, when I saw that question, I'm really not surprised. And it doesn't matter what the product is, the
Yeah.
industry is the industry. I guess maybe if I had to say what surprised me is how many people are really afraid to talk to others. They have a fear.
Mm,
And I think it's
yeah.
because they don't know what to say. So much of what you have to focus on is the mindset side of it, that you're out here helping other people. You're not here to sell them. You're not here to put them on your team. You're here to help other people. So what I'm surprised about is how many people only want to do social media, And I always say social media is the start, but the conversation's the art. That helps fill your funnel, but you've gotta end up talking to people. End of day. So, but I'm seeing more and more and more of it. And people think that, if I post, they will come. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah, they're going for the lowest barrier of resistance, right? To exactly what you're saying is they're deciding, they're saying, well, I'll do this business, but I'm not going to put myself out there this way. I'm only willing to put myself out there that way. And for some people who have relationships with social contacts, that can be valuable and it can work, but not for all. It's like I'll give you a good example of what Janet's talking about. And this is so important to understand for your reps is that we all have that person in our life who's done a great job of staying in relationship with all their friends from high school, college, or church friends. Like they've just put the relational equity in. And when that person gets involved in something like direct sales network marketing, they just absolutely crush it because they have the relational equity. And then we have people who have not put the relational equity in, right? If they invited a couple people over to lunch, people wouldn't show up, right? Or would say, oh, I got other stuff going on, right? They haven't put in the relationship equity. My brother-in-law is one of the highest selling realtors in the state of Illinois. He's third for the company that he sells for. And it's because he ran a DJ business for 25 years and did all these weddings, right? So he stayed in touch with his network and all his people for years, and translate that into real estate and boom, kills it as a realtor, right? It's the same thing in direct sales network marketing, any kind of referral marketing business that's about relationships. Like network marketing, MLM, party plan isn't that much different from someone becoming a real estate broker or becoming a mortgage broker, in the sense that if you have a lot of relationship equity, those different methods will work. And so then the key is for people who don't have the relationship equity, what are those best practices where you have to be candid, right? That's tough truths, to Janet's point, that, not always are they going to say like, no, I just want to do it on social media. And it's like, well, Julie, you haven't earned that because you don't have the relationship equity with your people. Like, you just tried it for 3 weeks, and guess what? Nobody's responding to your stuff because you actually didn't do the work. So you're going to have to get on the phone. You're going to have to do this extra work and go build real relationships with people, because social media is just another form of communication. Years ago, it was, well, spin the dial on the phone. We talked about spinning the dial, and then we got rid of dials and it was punch the numbers, punch them on the phone. And we talked about punch a phone. And then it's, yeah, tap the contact in your phone. And then now it's, oh yeah, type to them on WhatsApp or social media. It's just a different mode of communication. Don't
Right.
get
It's the
caught up in
lowest
the
form.
mode.
You're
Yeah,
talking at them.
yeah, yeah.
You're
But
talking at them.
but don't think there's anything mystical about the form of communication, because each person has their own preference of how they want to be communicated with. Some people want to get messages on Facebook Messenger. Some people don't. Some people want to get text messages. Some people don't. Some people want you to call. Some people don't. And so what I love about what Janet's talking about here is that you want to show people how to use the different modes of communication you have it, and then not make it about one being better than the other, but making it be about the customer. Well, so this is such a good note. We've come on this a couple times on our panels, and I just want to highlight this. This is something we've seen that has been a challenge for some people, and it is that you have to make sure people are seeing it as, you're not picking that mode of communication for your own convenience. You're picking it for how that customer likes to communicate.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, that's DISC. That's the 4-color personalities.
Same thing.
It's not about you. It's about them. It is so critical. But at the end of the day, you got to have a conversation. And quite frankly, the reason most people just don't have the confidence. So when you're onboarding somebody, I think our role is to, be a cheerleader, but give them the tools. Tell them when they did something right.
Yeah.
Celebrate. You talked to one person today,
Mhm.
because for some people that
Mhm.
might be, worse than death. They always say talking to
Sure.
people and in front of people. So you've got to celebrate those, but you have to know, especially when you're successful, not everybody's like you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we found that to be very true, Janet. Like, when one of the things we moved in some of even the platforms we built over the years. So I serve both as chair here of the DSEF and then serve as CEO of Next. I'm a software provider in the space. And beyond just displaying transactional reporting, like who ranked up and who made sales and who's earning commissions, we've backed up, 5 years ago to say, who's winning the day, like who's committing the daily habits and is doing the work each day, who's doing the income producing activities, who's making calls, who's sending texts, who's listening to training, who's sharing on social media. And by just displaying the activities, it's allowed companies to start to celebrate who's showing up, right? Because so many times you don't even know who's showing up. People always say they're working harder than they really are. And so if you can just kind of expose some of that activity of what's going on in the pipeline, it becomes a
Yeah,
powerful.
there's other KPIs besides
Yeah.
sales and recruiting.
Amen. Yeah, there's a
Absolutely.
whole pipeline. So,
Absolutely.
so
But that's
as,
a great service,
yeah,
because that enables people to find something else to recognize, because we are in a business of recognition. The more you
yeah.
recognize, the better you're going to do. So
To add on to the next part, wait, from what surprised you, what would then be the biggest pitfalls you've seen to onboarding processes that you invite some of the people who are listening today to avoid inside of the process?
avoid. Well, it goes back to put them on and then letting them go. That to me is the biggest one, especially in the first couple of weeks. And I think the other thing is just giving them too much information. I just really believe it, because, when you ask, say, to a new consultant, so what questions do you have? You have to be bold enough to say, you know what, that's a good question. You don't need to know it now, because quite frankly, you
Yep.
don't need it. When you're ready, we'll get to it. And I use another, I'll say, it's like when you're in kindergarten, they're not teaching you algebra because you're not ready for it. So you have to be brave enough to say, don't worry about it. But if you just give them 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and just focus on this and make it a habit, you've got to teach it. These are habits. So, one of the things I've learned working alongside Bob Proctor's program is you can only work on 1 to 2 habits at a time. So what are those 2 habits that are going to make them successful? So less is more. I know I'm boringly consistent with it, but that's the answer to me.
It's such a good point, though, of understanding that, like, even in compensation plans, a lot of times we design compensation plans. We've talked about this on panels here with, okay, here's what someone in their first 30 days just needs to be thinking about and nothing else. And
That's right.
that other stuff is stuff they're going to think about 6 months in, or this part over here is going to be 12 months in, or this part over here is going to be 2 years in. And we don't even need to talk about it till then, because you're not even working on that at that time. There's different.
Exactly.
And so that same thought is, in your onboarding, you heard the stats from Dave Fleming, one of our previous guests, that Omar shared earlier. And it's true. It's like, how do we just get someone their first check in week 1 or 2, right? And the stats get pretty poor after that. And so you want someone to earn in that first week or 2. That's the big piece you're always looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just think that is so critical. And, even think about whatever kit they selected.
Yep.
Earn your kit back before the credit card bill comes. That's to me what you need to do. So keep it simple. Just do this. Just do this.
Cash flow positive. Be able to say, yep, that thing was actually a win in my life. That's huge. So many nuggets from what we've unpacked today, Janet. And there's some people who are on the line who have literally their next 18 months of their life roadmapped out as an executive at the direct sales company. And they're here because they want to learn. They also feel like, I just can't add more to my plate right now. And so for that person who's feeling a little overwhelmed, I always like to ask, what's that one thing that you would share with busy executives listening that they should take away from the session and apply, even out of all the different things we talked about? If you had to break it down to just one thing, what would you leave them with today?
Well, obviously less is more. But I think the other thing, I've seen this with so many companies, not everybody on your team is full on. 90% of them, this is a part-time gig, 3 to 5 hours a week. So thinking of that, think of your training in what can somebody do in 3 to 5 hours a week. Your corporate calls, make them short, make them at the right time. I mean, I can't believe it. Some companies are doing them at 2 p.m. Well, come on. We tend to think about the top 10%. Whereas, you know what? There's that 90%. And though that 90% can move up, but you've got to accommodate them. And I know, trust me, it's not fun to be doing evening calls all the time and that sort of thing. But for me, it's always have your consultant top of mind.
But that's such a good point to remember, is that some of us try to say, oh, we're not getting momentum, we're not getting growth, and we don't realize that it's a relationship business of mostly part-time salespeople. That's mostly evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
So if we think about it, well, honestly, if you need a Sabbath from your work, right, you should go take a Sabbath on Tuesday mornings, Mr. Direct Selling Executive, because the time that your reps are go needing your support is evenings and Saturday, Sunday is really a lot of the space, because you have a lot of part-timers that are working the other 5 days a week, and this is their extra thing that they're doing in their life. And so
exactly,
you can think about that in your timing of your calls, as Janet's pointed out. You could think about that as well in your customer support hours. You could think about that as well in the types of hours you invite your directors of sales and the people who are managing the field to have, right? Why would you, if you'd rather have the ladies running your field be on from noon to 8 each day, why would you want them in at 8 a.m. in your shift time? Like,
exactly. You've got to meet people where they are at.
Meet people where they're at.
And that includes prospecting calls. You have to open up your calendar. I mean, trust me, I am not available all of the time, but I do have a night a week that up until 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night Central Time, I open up my calendar for that. Or I'll do Saturdays. I set limits. I'm not going to be available all day Saturday, but hey, I'm available up until noon on Saturday if you want to talk.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I think you have to be cognizant of it and show them that you're there to work with them and meet them where they're at.
Agreed. Well, Janet, it was a total treat to have you here today. Thank you so much for coming on out. For those of you that are listening to the DSEF event today and you haven't yet subscribed, you can go on LinkedIn. It's absolutely free to apply to join. And you can go on Spotify or wherever you like to listen to podcasts, YouTube, to catch more episodes just like this. And if you haven't yet added Janet on LinkedIn and connect with her, do it. Okay. And want to just say thank you so much for being here today. Totally appreciate you. And I'm grateful we have this time here together. Have an amazing day, everybody. We'll talk with you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you haven't yet joined the DSEF group on LinkedIn, go to directSellingExecutiveForum.com or go on LinkedIn and search for Direct Selling Executive Forum to apply. The group is free and is an invite-only community of direct selling executives by direct selling executives.